A Washington law that puts a revolving door in our jails.
People don't feel safe, and they have every reason to not feel safe.
The new push to make sure dangerous suspects don't walk free. A trove of stolen goods and tools for more crime.
Holy moly.
That's a lot of stuff.
Wow.
How Bellevue police say a small clue in a purse snatching unraveled a teenager's crime spree. A sinister world of sex for sale, violence, coercion, and captivity.
It's torture. You're out against your will in hotel rooms, in your own house.
A survivor of human trafficking shares her story of how she was pulled in and how to escape. Tonight in the Spotlight.
The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Well, good evening and thank you for joining us for the Spotlight. I'm David Rose, and we begin tonight with the search for an armed and dangerous fugitive who bonded out of jail and is wanted again. Take a look at 20-year-old Alberto Nunez. Renton police arrested him last October for unlawful possession of a firearm. At his arraignment, King County Superior Court Judge Veronica Galvin lowered his bail from $100,000 to $10,000. Citing the law in Washington state, the defendants must be given the least restrictive bail possible unless they're a danger to the community or unlikely to appear for court. After he posted bail and was released, Washington State Patrol detectives say he accidentally shot his friend through the chest, then tossed the gun and fled before they got to the hospital. Nunez has been on the run ever since.
He has a warrant out for his arrest for assault with sexual motivation. He's known to be armed where he is not allowed to own a firearm, so he has another warrant out for unlawful possession of a firearm. He is dangerous to the community and he is eluding police officers. We need to get him into custody so nothing else bad happens.
Alberto Nunez is 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs 160 pounds. He has large tattoos on his neck. Call 911 if you spot him. But if you know where he's hiding and you want a cash reward of up to $1,000, submit an anonymous tip to Crime Stoppers through the P3 Tips app on your cell phone. And it's repeat offenders like that creating frustration for law enforcement already stretched thin. They get arrested for serious crimes only to be released from custody and then go on to commit more crimes. For example, career criminal Raymond Wells was arrested this week for a violent armed robbery in Olympia. The Thurston County Sheriff says it is another case that shows a lack of accountability in our judicial system. As the Spotlight's Frankie Thompson reports, this problem has the attention of state lawmakers this legislative session.
If there's one group of suspects the Thurston County Sheriff's Office is tired of catching, it's repeat offenders.
They're mocking our criminal justice system. They're mocking our judges. They're mocking the entire system.
A system that Sheriff Derek Sanders says one man is notoriously familiar with. Tuesday, several agencies arrested him, suspected of a violent robbery in Olympia.
He's got a history of barricading. He's got a history of running from us. If we find him in a car, he likes to go the wrong way down the freeway. So today we found him in a house, barricaded in the attic.
This is just one of several guns deputies say the man was barricaded with inside the house, and it took the county's K-9 unit to get the previously convicted felon to surrender in this case.
He's been bit by just about every K-9 the sheriff's office has had in the last decade.
Sanders says the suspect has been booked into the Thurston County Jail 18 times, raising questions why someone with years of violent history continues to be released from custody and back on the streets.
They're going right back to reoffending the moment they get out of jail.
It's quite perplexing what's happening right now.
Representative Lauren Davis hearing those frustrations from law enforcement loud and clear. She's sponsoring House Bill 1252 to make it harder for suspects who run from police to get out of jail and increase judicial accountability.
If you have somebody who is known to engage in continued criminal conduct, flaunt the law, flaunt the orders of law enforcement, why are we releasing that person when they are legally able to hold them and they're choosing not to?
36, you take the pursuits.
The bill would force judges to consider suspects who run from police as public safety threats, allowing them to set higher bail. It also requires the judicial officer to explain in writing their decision for setting a lower bail than what prosecutors requested.
I really want judges to have to pause, to be thoughtful in those decisions and to show their work and to show the public and the community that they are serving how, in their minds, public safety is going to be maintained with this particular defendant out in the community.
For the Spotlight, I'm Frankie Thompson.
House Bill 1252 is set for a hearing before the Public Safety Committee on February 13th. Sheriff Sanders and Renton Police Chief John Schultz will be among the leaders in law enforcement testifying to share real-life scenarios to support this bill. If you have strong feelings about it either way, reach out to your local lawmaker and let them know. 5 stolen firearms, 30 sets of keys, 70 stolen bank cards, and even police tactical gear. Take a look at the massive stash Bellevue police found inside the Federal Way home where 18-year-old Madden McGraw lives with his dad. Police tell us this teen's criminal activity extends far beyond Bellevue, and he didn't act alone. He was on quite the crime spree. He and a 15-year-old are accused of robbing a 72-year-old woman in January, stealing her purse and injuring her as she loaded groceries into her car. The Spotlight's Dave Detling spoke with that woman's family about McGraw's arrest.
Holy moly.
That's a lot of stuff.
Wow. Yeah. Look at the gas.
I can't believe he's 18 years old. Wow.
The Lee family says they wanted answers after their 72-year-old mother was shoved to the ground and her purse was stolen while putting groceries in her car in the H-Mart parking lot in Bellevue. Investigators say the person responsible is 18-year-old Madden McGraw. He and his accomplice were driving this stolen red Toyota when it happened.
The attacker threw her, pushed her so hard to the asphalt that it left a compression fracture on her lumbar L1, her back, so she got a broken back.
Aaron Lee is the woman's son-in-law. He and his wife, Sophie, tell Fox 13 they're glad McGraw is in custody, but they had no idea how far his alleged criminal activity stretched.
The property that you see in front of you was recovered during that search warrant service.
In this show and tell by Bellevue police, these are just some of the items that were taken from McGraw's home in Federal Way.
That there are multiple credit cards and debit cards belonging to what we believe are several different victims. And there are over 30 sets of keys. There are 5 stolen firearms.
But one of the most concerning is the police-issued tactical gear.
We believe that McGraw worked with other suspects to target vulnerable populations, specifically vulnerable elderly females.
So how did they connect McGraw to his alleged crime spree? Attention to detail. The day of the attack, court papers show he was wearing a black jacket with a hole in the left arm that had some stuffing coming out of it. In this surveillance video captured at a nearby mall, they saw him wearing that same jacket with the same hole. Unfortunately, the woman's not the only elderly victim. Police say he also grabbed an 84-year-old woman's purse off her arm, knocking her to the ground in Linwood. Detectives say these photos show McGraw and his accomplice using her credit cards, buying more than $1,200 worth of goods at Champs at the Bellevue Square Mall. You can see McGraw and his accomplice walking across the Sky Bridge. Detectives say they also committed numerous car prowls, including at casino parking lots and at Boeing in Renton, where police say they smashed a window and stole a Glock handgun. For investigators and all their hard work,
she's very thankful for the police officers, the detectives, all the agencies that are involved.
For the Spotlight, I'm Dave Detling.
I can tell you the detective on this case, Jeff Christensen, worked nonstop 24/7 for weeks after the robbery to make this arrest. McGraw's in jail tonight on $250,000 bail. He's been charged with 4 felonies, including robbery first degree, identity theft, and possession of a stolen firearm. Renton police are hoping to generate leads after a man was shot to death while confronting a pair of car prowlers. This happened in the early morning hours of February 1st in the Victoria Hills neighborhood. Police say the 35-year-old victim confronted 2 people trying to steal his car and grabbed onto the driver's side window.
He was then dragged by the suspect around the corner, and at which point the suspect shot him. His wife came out and was able to bring him back into the driveway where he unfortunately has passed.
The suspects fled in the victim's Kia Sorento, which was later found abandoned elsewhere in Renton. This shooting comes a week after more than 60 cars were broken into all across the city. Police have not said yet whether the suspects in this shooting are also suspected in that string of car prowls. Police are hoping for surveillance video from the route that's on your screen on February 1st between 3:15 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. If you live along these streets and have a street-facing camera, please reach out to the department.
It's like the Wild West out here. It was literally 2 cars right here on Aurora, side by side, shooting at each other like the OK Corral. Bullets go in both directions.
Fed up and moving out. Last month on the Spotlight, we showed you this shootout along Aurora Avenue in Seattle. Bullets hit a nearby business, Empire Insurance Brokers. That prompted the owner to relocate to Snohomish County, saying the crime in this area has become too much. A suspect has now been arrested in that shooting. 23-year-old Legislators Jones Jr. was arrested in Auburn on January 31st with the help of a Seattle SWAT team and Ken PD's Special Investigations Unit. Court documents show the damage done to that insurance business during the January 10th shootout. Witnesses reported seeing someone open fire on a sedan from the sunroof of a Dodge Durango. Turns out the Durango had been stolen at gunpoint in Redmond back in October. After receiving an anonymous tip, detectives found the Durango at an apartment complex in Kent and saw the driver get out. A detective recognized him as Legislators Jones. He was eventually arrested inside a home where detectives say they found several guns and parts of a 3D printed handgun. Jones Jr. is now being held on $1.25 million bail. A man accused of breaking into a Thurston County apartment through the window and then raping a woman is now facing charges after he was arrested in Texas. The victim woke to a stranger in her bedroom as her 3 children were asleep in the home. The Spotlight's Jennifer Dowling spoke with a determined detective who used DNA evidence to hunt down that suspect and bring him back.
The report for the state of Washington is now in session. The Honorable Allison presiding.
As Xavier Carroll looked on with his attorney, the woman who accused him of assaulting her gave an emotional impact statement in court.
It was the scariest thing that I've ever went through, me and my family. I had children at home. And I just ask you to consider the flight risk and the additional danger and fear if he were to get released on bond.
Carol's accused of breaking into her Evergreen Garden apartment, raping her while her 3 children were asleep in nearby rooms.
Obviously, the community was outraged and scared, and as well as our survivor.
Court documents show the woman told investigators she heard her bedroom door open around 4 in the morning and saw an unknown male suspect standing in her room. When asked how he got in, she said he responded with, "Don't worry about it," and reportedly said, "You're going to like this," before assaulting her.
In this situation, she chose to try to keep her children safe and was trying to get him out of the home as quickly as she could, but without waking up her children.
She told investigators she tried to get him to leave by suggesting she had to go to work. When the assault finally stopped, he asked when she was free next. He also reportedly said he was sorry for being from Chicago and being forceful, and that she was going to see him again, and said if she hears loud music, that's him.
I've been a special victims detective for 7.5 years now, and this is the first stranger rape that we've had in Thurston County, at least with the sheriff's office, in that amount of time.
This sketch was created while the state crime lab analyzed DNA on the victim. December 4th, a CODIS hit came back for Carroll, wanted in Thurston County on a warrant for theft. Nastansky found an address on his Texas driver's license, and law enforcement there discovered he was living at the home of a family member in El Paso. Upon arrest, he reportedly admitted to living at Evergreen Garden Apartments.
He admitted or acknowledged that he had been staying there with a friend at the time.
Tuesday, the judge set bail at $750,000.
She was terrified that he would come back and try to do something again to her. So this was a very big priority case for the sheriff's office to put all of our resources into to identify this individual.
For the Spotlight, I'm Jennifer Dowling.
A survivor of human trafficking hopes to empower other victims. She doesn't want to be identified, but does want to share her story. For 8 years, she was threatened and manipulated, taken from hotel to hotel, and forbidden to see her son. She spoke with the Spotlight's Alejandra Guzman on how you can recognize the signs of human trafficking.
It was like living 2 lives.
Born in Auburn, her childhood was far from idyllic. It was a facade, keeping up with appearances of normalcy while hiding the turbulence she lived at home, a harrowing reality.
My dad was very abusive to my mom, and so my mom was very abusive to me.
She was physically and sexually abused as a child. At 13, she was kicked out of her home. Finding herself alone and vulnerable, she navigated a world determined to exploit her.
So he was a pedophile, and he sexually abused me as well, and he made me sell his drugs for him in North Seattle.
She was recruited, coerced to sell crack cocaine, earning a mere $1 for every deal for a year until a group of strangers saved her. She returned home at 16, hoping for stability. In reality, this would only shape her perspective on relationships.
At 17, I got pregnant.
Another tumultuous relationship. It unraveled when she turned 21. She felt relief, but there was an unfamiliar independence she didn't know how to cope with.
The partying started again, because I never partied, didn't go to the clubs, and then that's how I met my trafficker.
Her life quickly changed. He isolated her and moved into her home. After years of enduring abusive relationships, she was unable to stand up for herself. He used her son as leverage.
So you need to pack a bag for you and your son, and my uncle's on his way to come pick us up, and we're going to Portland.
From Portland, she was taken to California. For the next 8 years, she was sent across the country. Unfortunately, she's not a one-off instance.
We get a lot of visitors. We get a lot of people that pass through Bellevue. We have a lot of hotels, which is primarily a lot of the locations where we may see this type of activity.
Captain Landon Barnwell with Bellevue Police says their detectives have seen a year-over-year increase in human trafficking cases. They're averaging 6 to 12 cases a year. Last year's youngest victim was just 11 years old. Across Washington, 202 cases of sex and/or labor trafficking were reported by the National Human Trafficking Hotline in 2023. 367 victims were involved.
It's made to seem very chaotic, but it's very organized. It's torture. You're held against your will in hotel rooms, in your own house, in your own bedroom, and you are beat viciously.
Despite the pain, there's only one reason she remained compliant.
I didn't want to go out that way. I refused to leave my son in a world with people like him.
There are countless signs she wishes people had noticed earlier. Her fearfulness, submissiveness, the bruising she walked around with. Just one question, she says, can help save someone's life.
Stop acting like it doesn't exist. Because it maybe doesn't affect you directly, but we are all somebody's daughter. We are all somebody's son. We are all somebody's cousin and niece and nephew. And they don't discriminate.
As a survivor, she's found hope on the other side.
Surviving is hard, but life afterwards is better.
For the Spotlight, I'm Alejandra Guzman.
Now, if you or someone you know is a victim, or if you have knowledge of a potential trafficking situation, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. That number is right there on your screen. The survivor you just heard from tells us she has a job for the first time in 12 years, and she's going to school. A Renton man is recovering after he was hit by a car while walking his dog. He was knocked unconscious, and the driver took off. As the Spotlight's Jennifer Dowling reports, the dog was also hurt, but managed to run home to get help.
But Esco the hero, that's our buddy.
Richard Sanchez may be battered and bruised.
And I can't walk, I can barely sit up.
But he and his wife, Lori, are still feeling fortunate for this furry first responder.
I call him Eskimo because he's real fluffy, but Esco the hero.
The couple credits part of Richard's rescue to the brave bully.
I'm still in awe of how he made it home. And how far they were.
Richard says they were near Talbot Road South and 51st Court on January 24th when they were hit. Renton police are investigating this dash cam video that shows a car hitting them near a marked pedestrian crossing area. We paused it before impact.
My left leg is pretty much shattered.
As the driver sped away, Esco sprang into action.
And that's when my family understood that there was something wrong.
Making the mile-long trip home alone.
Esco was on the stairs. He was just going sideways. I'm like, what's going on, boy? But I immediately went to the door.
As Lori was preparing to look for Richard,
Esco was trying to tell me.
An officer knocked on the door.
The officer said, she just put her hands up, and I was like, what's wrong?
The couple just lost their 25-year-old son in 2023. Lori was distraught.
Oh, and she said, your husband has been hit by a car. And she said, she's gonna need to get there. And he's going to Harborview. I'm like, Harborview? I just lost my son at Harborview.
Esco was also injured in the ordeal. The family set up an online fundraiser for medical expenses for both Richard and the pup. Police are hoping someone recognizes the car, which has a very small sunroof and possible damage to the side, hood, and windshield. After more than 30 years together, this couple is happy they'll have a few more.
He's gonna be okay.
I know.
They're also grateful for Esco,
We're gonna get him a cape.
their four-legged superhero.
I already got in mind a cape and a little chain hanging like Esco the hero. And you say hello to him, he'll wink.
For the Spotlight, I'm Jennifer Dowling.
Again, the hit and run happened in Renton right around 9 p.m. on January 24th on Talbot Road South near 51st Court. Investigators say the vehicle was a dark gray or silver crossover SUV. They're not sure the exact make or model. If you have any information, contact Renton Police or Crime Stoppers. There is a GoFundMe. They've only raised about $1,700. We've got information on our website, fox13seattle.com, if you'd like to help him out. His injuries are severe. That's going to do it for us tonight on The Spotlight. Until next week, I'm David Rose. Please stay safe.